The night it all began, the city felt heavier than usual, as if the air itself was carrying unspoken grief. Rain clung to the streets in thin silver lines, reflecting broken streetlights and tired lives rushing home. In that quiet chaos, a single father walked faster than his strength allowed, 3 small hands gripping his fingers, unaware that the next few minutes would change their lives forever. He thought he had already faced the worst fate could offer, but destiny was only just opening another door. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles hidden in ordinary days, take a moment right now to like this video. Share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Ethan Miller had not planned to stop at the old public park that evening. Life rarely went according to plan anymore. Since the death of his wife 3 years ago, every day had become a careful balance between survival and love. Raising triplets alone was not just exhausting, it was a constant test of faith. Lily, Noah, and Ben were 7 years old, identical in their smiles and stubborn curiosity, but each carried a different piece of their mother's spirit. Ethan worked long shifts at a small logistics warehouse, often returning home with sore hands and a heavier heart, wondering if he was doing enough, if he was enough. That evening, the children begged him to take a shortcut through the park. They were restless, their school bags bouncing against their backs, laughter breaking through the fog of his worries. Ethan agreed, mostly because he didn't have the energy to argue. As they stepped under the tall trees, the noise of the city softened, replaced by the gentle sound of rain dripping from leaves. That was when Lily stopped walking. Near the old fountain stood a woman in a red coat, bright against the gray world, as if she didn't belong to the scene around her. She wasn't moving, wasn't sheltering herself from the rain. She simply stood there, hands folded, eyes fixed on the water. The triplets, drawn by the color and the stillness, slowly approached her before Ethan even realized they had let go of his hands. Panic flared in his chest. He rushed forward, ready to apologize, to pull his children back, but something about the woman made him pause. She turned slightly, her face calm yet deeply sad, and the children stared at her with the open innocence only kids possess. They waved at her, smiling, asking questions in excited voices. Ethan tensed, expecting confusion or irritation. Instead, the woman lifted her hands and began to move them gently through the air. Her gestures were graceful, deliberate, filled with meaning even before understanding. The triplets watched closely, mirroring her movements without knowing why. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as recognition struck him like ice. His wife, Anna, had been fluent in sign language. She had learned it in college while volunteering at a community center for the deaf, and she had taught Ethan patiently, lovingly, until he could follow conversations without hesitation. He had not used it much since she passed, because every movement reminded him of her absence. The woman in red signed slowly, telling the children that she couldn't hear them, but she was happy they stopped to say hello. She signed that the rain felt peaceful to her, that the park was her place to think. Ethan stood frozen, the world narrowing down to the quiet language unfolding in front of him. Memories crashed into him without mercy. Anna laughing as she corrected his hand shapes, Anna signing lullabies to the babies when they cried at night, Anna promising that love always finds a way to speak. The children responded clumsily, copying signs they barely understood, giggling when they got them wrong. The woman smiled at their effort, her eyes shining with warmth and pain at the same time. Ethan finally stepped forward, his hands trembling as he signed an apology for interrupting and explained that his children were curious, that he hadn't meant to intrude. The woman looked surprised, then deeply moved. She signed back, telling him it was a gift to see children try so hard to communicate, that it reminded her the world was still gentle somewhere. Her name was Clara. She had lost her hearing years ago after an illness and had learned to read the world differently ever since. Red, she explained, was her way of feeling visible in a world that often passed her by. The park was where she came when loneliness grew too loud. Ethan felt an ache in his chest, recognizing that loneliness as an old companion of his own. Days passed, but the memory of that evening refused to fade. The triplets talked endlessly about the woman in red, practicing random hand movements at the dinner table, asking Ethan to teach them more. Something shifted inside him. He realized how much of Anna he had buried along with his grief, how much of himself he had locked away just to survive. Teaching the children sign language became their new ritual, a bridge between past and present. They met Clara again, and then again. Sometimes in the park, sometimes at a small cafe where she liked to sit by the window. Slowly, the silence between them filled with understanding. Clara learned about Ethan's struggles, the nights he fell asleep on the couch out of exhaustion, the fear that his children would grow up missing something he couldn't give them. Ethan learned about Clara's world, the way music existed for her as vibration, the way emotions showed themselves more honestly through hands than words ever could. The children thrived in her presence. They became more patient, more attentive, more aware of the people around them. Ethan watched his triplets blossom and felt a quiet healing begin inside him. It wasn't sudden or dramatic. It was slow, like sunlight returning after a long winter. One evening, as the sky burned orange and gold, the triplets ran ahead to the fountain, waiting eagerly. Clara arrived in her red coat, smiling as always. She signed something to Ethan that made his heart stop. She thanked him for trusting her, for letting her into their lives, and for reminding her that she was more than her silence. Ethan replied with shaking hands, telling her that she had given his children a new language and him a reason to open his heart again. Before this story ends, take a moment and comment below what kindness means to you, because your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Near the end of that year, Ethan stood watching his children laugh, their hands moving confidently as they signed stories to Clara under the winter lights of the park. He felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time, hope, not the kind that promises perfection, but the kind that whispers that broken things can still be beautiful. If this story touched your heart, if it made you pause or feel something deep inside, please like the video, share it with someone you care about, and leave a comment. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need them most. The woman in red never replaced what Ethan had lost, and she never tried to. Instead, she stood beside him, speaking in a language of patience, resilience, and quiet love. And in that shared silence, a broken family found a new way to listen, a new way to heal, and a future that no longer felt so lonely.